Hello and welcome to Hot Tea with Holly. I am Holly and I am having a hot cup of tea. Today I've got a very interesting specialty. Specialty, get it? Haha. It's kind of hard to see, but if you can, it's blue. This is blue tea, thanks to my dear friend Erin and the women over at Big Heart Tea Companies. This is not sponsored. This was a gift from my friend Erin. She sent me this incredible gift box of a whole bunch of different teas. And this was in there. It's called Blue Lullaby. And if you haven't had blue tea before, it's very interesting. What makes it blue is actually butterfly pea, which I think is a bush or an herb. And then it's got some mint in it. And it's actually really delicious. I'm having some herbal tea today because I was up early and I had a bulletproof coffee very early this morning. And if you know me and you know me on bulletproof coffee, you know that that's about all the caffeine I can handle in a day. And so I had that. So today for Hot Tea with Holly, it's got to be something a little herbal just to keep the caffeine in check. How are you? If you are here with me live on Facebook, say hello. Are you having a beverage? Are you drinking tea? Are you drinking coffee? Are you drinking water? What is your beverage? I am so glad that you are here. Welcome. And if you were watching this in playback, either on YouTube or my blog, come on over to my blog, hollyperkins.com. I have all kinds of great free resources. And on my blog, I am dedicated to helping you create the body that you need in order to keep up with the life that you love. And I do that through the process of teaching the art and science of strength training and intentional nutrition. I have a special segment today that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. So we're going to do it. And I just turned 50. So if you didn't know that, happy birthday to me. I am now in my 50th year of being here, which is unbelievable. When you get to 50 and you realize, oh my gosh, I have been alive for 50 years, that starts to feel really different. I'm not saying I'm old or anything like that, but when you just look at it and you're like, I've been alive for 50 years. Holy cow. And I know some of my friends here are older than me, but it's interesting to have that perspective, right? So I thought it would be really fun to do a retrospective, the ages and stages through my fitness journey, what my habits were at the time, what my workouts were at the time, and what my nutrition is. This is a powerful segment. Now, listen, this isn't really all about me. I'm using myself just to demonstrate some of the things that I've learned in the 30 years of being in the health and fitness industry. And I have to admit, or I'll brag on myself a little bit, I have become really good at understanding the female body because mine was so tricky. And as you'll see in a moment, I'm going to take you through a pictorial journey of Holly starting in high school. Oh, you just wait. I've got some photos that are doozies. Oh, you just wait. There's some hilarious photos in here. But I'm going to take you through everything that I was doing simply to provide the narrative on what I have learned in all of these years being committed to and obsessed with fitness and nutrition. Now, my journey started at a very young age. And even when I was in high school and I was getting prepared for college, I knew that I wanted to exercise as my profession. And back in the 80s, there weren't too many colleges that actually offered exercise as a major. Somehow the stars aligned and I got accepted into the Pennsylvania State University. And my first major was athletic training. That was at Penn State. And I got very discouraged with the male dominated culture of athletics at Penn State. And I thought, if I'm going to become an athletic trainer, I want to be able to work with the best of professional athletes. And I knew that would be men. And I just had this moment and I'm like, that's a battle I don't think I want to face. So I changed my major to exercise physiology and nutrition. And here we are 30-ish years later. So throughout my entire life, I have really had to navigate through very difficult health issues. When I was in my 20s, we couldn't figure out what it was. I thought that it was just my lot in life. Through my 30s, I started to employ some eating habits to kind of start to undo and figure out why I felt like crap all the time. And then in my late 30s and up to 40, I got a lot of it figured out. And then boom, at about 45, 46, I really got hit with a very serious health challenge when my autoimmune disorder and Lyme disease came to the forefront, and it really caused me to take a left-hand turn. So I'm going to take you through those years as well, and also all the way up to my actual 50th birthday and how I'm looking and how I'm feeling and just the journey of it all. I think it's going to be a really cool conversation, and I hope that you find this interesting. I hope you're with me and having a cup of tea or coffee. Let me know. Holly Miles. Holly is having water. Good for you. It's always important to hydrate. On that note, inside of my communities and my coaching programs, I generally recommend that women who are active and really following a intentional diet, I usually recommend getting at least 100 ounces of water per day. Some people will say half of your body weight in ounces of water, depending on how active you are. So water is welcome here too. Lois says water too. Good girl. Very proud of you. Heidi, I'm having dandelion dark roast by Ticino with chocolate protein powder and maple syrup. Girl, you win today's hot beverage award. That sounds amazing. That's kind of like last week when Julie was here. Julie had peppermint tea with cacao powder, and I think she put some honey in it, and it sounded absolutely delicious. So welcome, welcome. Let's jump in. This is going to be such a fun conversation. If you're just joining me live, in celebration of 50 years walking on this earth, and the vast majority of those years being dedicated to health, fitness, and nutrition, I'm taking you on a wild ride today as we are going through a retrospective, the ages and stages of my health and fitness journey. It's a pictorial journey to share with you kind of where I was, what my habits were, what my health was like, and the results that I got. It's a super fun journey. Let's dive in. As I'm chatting, if you have questions and comments, please leave them here. If you're here with me live, and if you're on playback, hi. If you're here on YouTube, say hello below. Come on over to my website, hollyperkins.com. Today, I'm going to be talking a lot about nutrition and strength training. If you come to my website, hollyperkins.com/offer, you're going to be able to download a totally free 6-week strength and cardio program for either home or gym, complete with your repetitions, all of the progressive programming, video tutorials to show you exactly what to do for your strength workouts, either at home or at the gym. So if you found me here on Facebook or YouTube, come on over to hollyperkins.com/offer. Let's jump in. So I want to let you guys know that I am working with some technology here today. So you're going to have to deal with me as I am navigating, finding all of the photos that I want to share with you today. So why don't we start in high school? So I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, where I happen to be right now, and that was the 80s. So if you remember, in the 80s, that was the height of dance aerobics, running, and that was on the precipice. Actually, the 80s, oh my gosh. If you remember, well, those of you guys that are old enough to remember, and if you're younger than me, this is going to be a really fun education for you. So if you're younger than me, if you're in your 40s or younger, some of this is going to be wild information for you. So if you guys remember in the 80s, the big news was do not eat fat. Do you remember? Fat, all fats were bad for you because it caused heart disease. That was the news. That was the trend in the 80s. Do not eat fat. And that was when Splenda and all of the artificial sweeteners came onto the market. So Equal came out in the 80s as a response to low fat diets in the 80s. Fat is going to kill you. So let's go fat-free everything, fat-free pretzels, fat-free bagels, fat-free potato chips. Do you remember when they came out with fat-free Doritos? Do you guys remember that? That was in the 90s. So during the 80s, I was low fat. And I would even actually say I was non-fat in the 80s. So here is me in high school. When I graduated high school, I think it was about 118 pounds. And at that point, I felt totally fine. I did have the beginnings of allergies, but I was actually feeling pretty good. It wasn't until I got into college that a lot of my health issues really started. So when I graduated at peak, as they would call it, adulthood, once you hit 18, my body weight was around 118, about 118, 120. I was pretty active. I was really into dance aerobics, and that was my jam. Everything non-fat, everything. Whoops. Okay, hold on. Did I stop sharing? Stop share. Okay, there we go. Bear with me. I got to figure out my technology. Okay. So that was non-fat everything. And that was when we were really focusing on high carbs. So that took me into the 90s when I was in college. So here is a photo. Hold on, let me bring that down. There we go. Oh, these are all going to pop up. Okay, there we go. Here is a photo of me after I gained the infamous 15 pounds in college. So when I went to college, I really had no education on nutrition, how to eat, what to do. And I was thrust into being in a cafeteria and having no restrictions on food. So in my freshman year, it was an emotionally very difficult year for me. It was the year that my parents separated. It was a very unexpected change in life. And here I was, a freshman in college, and I had full reign of the cafeteria. And this was when I was just beginning my education in exercise science and nutrition. I had no idea what to eat. And I easily gained the freshman 15, maybe even freshman 20, because I was doing a lot of just junk, delicious food. I remember at the time I was eating a lot of ice cream with peanut butter thrown on top of it. So a lot of my health issues actually started in college during the age and the stage when everything was about the non-fat, high carb movement. Okay, so let's remove this and let me give you, hold on, bear with me, guys, as I try to figure out. I'm going to stop share. I will get this down in a moment. I've stopped share. So then what I did is during college, I then moved into the infamous of the 90s, the high carb, low fat movement. So if you remember, am I doing this right? I am. Screen share was canceled. Stop sharing. Okay, so we're good. Make sure you share. Okay, good. So we're still good. Heidi, shout at me if I get my technology screwed up. If you tend to stick around, Rona's here. Hello too. Welcome everybody. It's so fun. So in the 90s, when I was in college and I was trying to get more educated about nutrition, I was just beginning to learn about strength training because it was my major in college, but I was teaching dance aerobics. So even through the early 90s, everything was about aerobics, running, high cardio, but then also low fat, high carb everything. So if it was high carb and zero fat, like a bagel or pretzels, that was considered a health food. So in college, I went down this path of low fat, high carb. I lived on bagels, fat-free mayonnaise and mustard sandwiches. It's disgusting. Pretzels, anything that was fat-free and high carb. I think it's really interesting that this is when my allergies got to a peak. I had debilitating allergies in college. At the time, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know that it was related to my nutrition. Now, when I look back on it, I am certain that my allergies in college were 100% because I was on the wrong diet for my body. I'm certain of it because in my 40s, my allergies reemerged and I was able to get rid of them through diet. Allergies for many people are an autoimmune disorder. So my autoimmune disorder started to rear its ugly head when I was in college. And the first sign of it was very severe allergies And then I started to get a reemergence of eczema, which I had eczema. I think it's eczema, which had started when I was a young child. So through my college years, my energy went down, 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 down. My energy went down. My allergies went up, 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 and my body weight started going up alongside of pretty severe eczema. Again, at the time, I had no idea what was going on. I was studying nutrition and I was learning about how to eat. And still to this day, there are a lot of nutrition focused conversations that talk about the major food groups, right? Whole grains, whole wheat, dairy, low fat proteins. And now, thankfully, we've started to embrace fats, but fats actually didn't really come to the forefront until the early 2000s. So here we are in the early 90s. It's still the low fat, high carb movement. And I felt awful. Let me share a photo. You better take a sip of water. You better sit down because this photo is a doozy. You won't even recognize me. So this photo was taken in about 1994, probably 1994. I think I was a senior in college. So here I was studying nutrition and exercise science, and this was probably the heaviest that I have ever been in my life. I would say here I was probably upwards around 150 pounds at about 5'5", 5'6". This was about 30 pounds heavier than where I am right now. Now, what I would say is this photo where I was not at my best was completely because of an autoimmune disorder that was emerging and not knowing how to eat. At this time, it was still high carb, high carb, high carb, bagels, pretzels, non-fat dairy, non-fat yogurt, whole wheat fat-free bread. Everything was fat-free, salad dressings, hot chocolate, anything that was fat-free, it was considered a health food, and I went to town on it. I don't know that I've ever felt worse. That's not true, but I felt pretty bad at this time in my life. And as you can see, the scale was going up and up and up. But more importantly than that, I felt awful. I just felt terribly awful all the time. I think I just figured out my technology. Woo, woo. So I felt awful. I was graduating Penn State. I was coming into being a professional and I moved to New York City. I got a job at a very high profile facility where I was training some of the most famous celebrities ever. At the time, I was training Howard Stern, Julia Roberts, Natasha Richardson, Sandy Hill Pittman, uh, um, what's her name? Courtney Love, Kelly Klein. I mean, so many people at the time, like famous person after famous person after famous person at that time. And okay, now how do I share? Share. There we go. Okay, we're getting there. No, I'm sharing my screen. So now we go share screen. Okay, bear with me. So what happened was I found myself with a fabulous job in New York City. And it's time I was training Howard Stern. So I had to whip my butt into shape because here I was, a personal trainer in New York City. I was training some of the most famous people in the world. This was at about the age of 22. So I had to take all of that weight off from college. And at the time, I still really didn't know how to do it. I was following a diet that I thought I was supposed to be following. I was going vegan one day a week and using lots of soy products. I was still trying to do low fat, but I was trying to eat things like brown rice and bagels with fat-free jam on it and skim milk in my latte. So I was still doing low fat, but I was trying to select a lot of healthy foods. So through exercise, I was that person who tried to use exercise to run off my diet and my body fat. And I was 22 at the time. I was so excited about life. I was so excited about my new career. And I spent a lot of time running. I worked a half a block from Central Park. Howard Stern and I, here in this photo, would go into Central Park. This was a photo, obviously, that appeared in Star Magazine. It also appeared in the Inquirer, believe it or not. The same exact photo was in the Inquirer. And Howard and I had just finished a 4-mile run here. So at this time, I was running without making any changes to my diet. And I was able to take some of the body fat off. So here, I got down to about 130, and I don't have as much of a tummy as it looks like here. This was like a loose tank top. So it's making my tummy look really big. And I was only about 130 pounds at 5'6" here. So I got myself through exercising off a bad diet. I got myself here to a reasonable body weight. No one would say I was fat, but I did have a client tell me I was big boned. Okay. Big boned at the time. Now, listen, I am actually not big boned, as you can tell from me now, and as you're going to see from some of the photos in my 40s. But I was just full. I was full. I was 130 pounds at 5'6". I didn't have any muscle on me. So a lot of that 130 pounds was body fat, and it was inflammation from a high carb diet. Now, at the time, I was eating a lot of pasta. I was eating whole wheat bread. I was eating anything that was like whole grain fibers, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, whole grain bagels, low fat, not a lot of protein. And I was going vegan 1 day a week. I was eating a lot of dairy because non-fat skim milk dairy products were supposed to be healthy. And I believed that they were. And so I was eating a lot of them. So what was happening behind the scenes here is that I was able to run off about 20 pounds. Okay. I got myself down to about 130 pounds, and I was pushing and running. And I felt awful. I felt terrible. This was when my autoimmune disorder really started to show its head. My allergies were still there, but my energy was so bad that I was going to Starbucks twice a day getting a double cappuccino. That's 4 shots of espresso every single day just to get through the day. And a lot of times I was having to rely on an extra cup of coffee here and there because I was exhausted. Because I was young and I was excited about life, I was able to push myself through running until it got to the point in my late 20s where I just crashed and burned. I felt awful. I had so much pain from improper training. I was overrunning under strength training. I didn't know how to strength train. And I was just a mess. And that's when I knew that I needed to change what I was doing. So I'm going to stop my share for a moment here and just share with those of you that are just popping in. Welcome to Hot Tea with Holly. Now it's not so hot. It's more of a medium temperature, lukewarm cup of tea. Herbal tea today. And if you're here with me live, please say hello. Today we are doing a retrospective through the ages and stages of my fitness and nutrition journey. And I'm taking you from my habits when I was 18 all the way through to my habits today. And it's really fun to just see how my body and how my health has changed through the things that I have personally learned that have helped and through my own education. So there was a comment here from Hollis. She says, "You were adorable then and gorgeous now." Thank you so much. Please know, you guys, that I'm not in any way putting myself down in any of these photos. I'm proud that I survived those years because they were rough. And when I look back, I'm actually kind of surprised that I'm living to tell about it from a place of health. What my goal and objective here today is just to kind of show you what habits I had, how I was feeling, and what my body looked like. So in my late 20s, out of desperation, I was like, I got to figure this out. I had a hunch that it had a lot to do with my nutrition. I also knew that I had to stop running through the pain. And this is when I started to get a little more serious about strength training. And this is when the Atkins revolution reemerged as the 90s progressed. So, in the early 90s and into the late 90s, the Atkins diet revolution was all the rage. We made the shift from low fat to high protein. We made the shift from high carbohydrate to low carbohydrate. Now, if you remember, the Atkins diet revolution was high protein, low carb. It wasn't necessarily high fat like today's version of keto. So I was working with a doctor at the time, and he helped me modestly. And at the time, I got the diagnosis of Syndrome X. Um, Syndrome X, to keep it as brief as possible, is a collection of health markers that indicates that you're going to get diabetes. And it didn't make any sense because I could run 8 miles in Central Park. I was eating bananas and skim milk and fat-free bagels, and I was vegan one day a week, eating lots of healthy soy products. And I was following all of the healthy diet trends. And yet I was Syndrome X. I felt awful. I was dragging through my days and only surviving on espresso. I think that Starbucks made all of their profit from the mid 90s to the mid 2000s from me alone. I swear to God, I gave so much of my discretionary income to Starbucks until I found the Nespresso espresso maker. And so now I make my own espresso thanks to Nespresso. That wasn't until the mid 2000s, actually, though. That was a ways later. So in my 20s, a very helpful doctor said, let's put you on Atkins. So I committed to a very strict Atkins high protein, low carb diet for about 6 months. And I got to tell you, for the first month or two, I felt amazing. I couldn't run because I didn't have any stamina, and I was getting yeast infections every 2 months, but I felt amazing. I remember I cut back on my caffeine. I remember getting into a cab on Broadway and 79th Street after I had just finished a client. And I remember climbing in and saying to myself, oh my God, I feel good. And I knew it was related to my diet. I knew it was because I had cut back on caffeine. And I knew it was somehow related to this Atkins diet that I was on. So I thought that was my diet forever. I stayed on the Atkins diet for about 6 months. And when it got to the point where I had zero stamina, that I could barely work out, and I kept getting severe yeast infections, I said to myself, something's wrong here. Something's not working. Again, I went back to the drawing board and I'm like, I got to figure this out. Thankfully, this was now the mid to late 90s when the wonderful Dr. Barry Sears published a New York Times bestseller called The Zone. So if you remember, The Zone, I have the chills, you guys. The Zone, I have the chills. That is the angel speaking through me to you right now. Thankfully, I was smart enough to pick up The Zone. And Barry Sears was the doctor that coined the concept of 40, 30, 30 eating. At the time, no one was doing this. And he started talking about the importance of stabilizing your blood sugar through intentionally eating a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbohydrates, and a certain amount of fat each day. For the first time ever, protein, fat, and carbohydrates, none of them were the devil. All three of them were valuable, but you needed to be selective on what kind of carbohydrates you ate and in what proportion to your protein and your fat. And it changed my life. All of a sudden, my energy was back. I naturally started to get leaner and my allergies started to disappear. At this point, I was in my late 20s, early 30s. It was right after this photo, just in case you weren't here and saw this doozy of a photo earlier. It was right after this photo. So it was about 10 years, maybe 8 years after this photo. And I completely rewrote my biology. I released a lot of the body fat. I released all of the inflammation that I was holding on here. And I started to actually have some energy and feel better. My allergies disappeared and I started to lean into more strength training and less cardio. So for years, I was now following a 40-30-30 diet approach, but I was still eating all of those foods that are deemed healthy. Low fat cottage cheese, lots of egg whites, lots of low fat, non fat Greek yogurt, lots of chicken, lots of low fat proteins, and I definitely made some progress until I got into my 30s. And at 35, I moved from New York City to Los Angeles. And I believe due to the lifestyle and the sunshine in California, I really started to feel better. My autoimmune disorder kind of started to settle down. And I started to address why I was chronically fatigued. And even though I was definitely feeling better, I still struggled with this fatigue thing. And so during my mid 30s until just before 40, I really started to get crystal clear on what was contributing to not feeling well. And that was when, still to this day, one of my most brilliant doctors, who is now a colleague, Dr. Nevins, helped me learn about blood type eating. Now, I had read Eat Right for Your Blood Type in the 90s when I was in my 20s, and I was trying to feel better, but it didn't land for me. It wasn't working. And so once I had gotten my blood sugar stabilized through balancing my macronutrients, and once I started eating a more balanced amount of protein, fat, and carbohydrates, and once I cut back on the caffeine, I cut back on the Starbucks, and that was the decade when I switched over to tea, believe it or not. In my 30s was when I discovered tea because I had to get off of coffee. I broke my dependency of caffeine at the age of about 35, 36. And that's when I really adopted my love of tea. So I had cleared up a lot of things, but I had that layer of fluff on my body. And I still was really struggling to feel well. And I was introduced to eating according to my blood type. I made one change. I took out chicken. That was the only thing I did. I eliminated chicken at about the age of 36 after this doctor's suggestion, and it radically changed my energy. Radically. Now, I'm not here to talk about blood type eating. I'm not telling you you shouldn't eat chicken. I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with chicken. What I'm saying is I'm a B blood type, and a doctor suggested that I stop eating chicken. And when I stopped eating chicken, there was an absolute turning point in my health and my energy. And with this newfound health and energy and my 40th birthday approaching, I decided I was going to really commit to improving my body composition. I was going to commit to getting lean. I was going to commit to strength training. And I was going to commit to really cultivating the body that I always wanted, that I was never able to get. So I want to share with you a photo of me at the beginning of that journey. Oh, I didn't open it. Hold on one second. Hold on. I got to find it. Hold on. I'm going to share share. Hang on one second, guys. Let me cancel my share. Give me 1 second. I want to share this one photo with you if I can find it, because there was a really good one. Give me 1 second. I'm going to show you a photo when I started my journey of committing to getting leaner and improving my body composition in celebration of my 50th birthday or 40th birthday at the time. Okay. So I was determined to reduce the body fat, eliminate the inflammation, and really for the first time get lean. And of course now I can't find it. Maybe it's over here. Give me 1 second. It's worth the hold. Download. There it is. I knew I would find it. Okay, so at the beginning of my journey, as I was rolling into wanting to get in the best shape ever for my 40th birthday, I was here. This was right before I put everything together. Now here, I was finally feeling better. I had more energy. I had just gotten a contract with Exercise TV and I was creating exercise videos. And now I could actually perform pretty well here. I was pretty fit. But as you can see, my body fat wasn't really impressive. Now, I don't look terrible here. I'm not saying that, but I certainly don't look impressive here. And when I saw this photo, I kind of felt like that's not what I want to look like. That's not the fitness expert I want to be. I want to be someone who really looks like a fitness expert. And in this photo, I didn't feel like I looked like a fitness expert. Even though I was fit, even though I was feeling better, even though I was performing better and I had zero allergies, I didn't look the way that I wanted to look. So, in honor of my 40th birthday, I set out to rewrite the story. I set out to really get straight on the combination of strength training, strategic cardio, and intentional nutrition to see if I could achieve what I wanted to make happen in my mind's eye. And for those of you that have known me since my days of Exercise TV, since my 40th birthday, since through Lift to Get Lean, you know I rewrote the story in a big, powerful way. If you're newer to my community, I'm going to share that before and after with you in a moment. But what I want to say is it was really critical. It was when all of the things came together and I really started changing what I was eating from this is healthy to this is actually productive for my body and what's working for me. And when I started to get smart about how much cardio I was doing and at what heart rate ranges, and when I really started to learn what it truly meant to strength train, that, my friend, is when it all changed. That was when I was really able to have a pretty substantial transformation. And once again, why did I not open that photo? Hold on. We got to open this photo. Give me 1 second. We're going to do this again because I need to find you the best photo of all. There she is right there that shows you what happened when I finally committed to integrating strength training, appropriate cardio, and smart nutrition for my body. So the photo on my left, I was about 36, maybe 37. And at the photo on the right, it was my 40th birthday. There were 3 years between these photos, and there was a whole lot of new strategy, new education, and finally figuring out how to bring together nutrition, strength training, and cardio to create the physique I wanted. So the photo on the right is the cover of my fitness DVD, Slim, Sexy, Strong, that I created right around the age of 40. Yep, at the age of 40, because this was the photo for that cover. And I was finally able to get it all together. And I will share what that looked like for you. My energy was finally better. It wasn't perfect. My sugar cravings were gone. My caffeine dependency was down. I had 0 allergies and I looked amazing. My strength training was up. I really was training to look a certain way and it worked. Let me share. Let me see if this shares. I'm going to try and share. Okay, I'm not sharing now. Share again. You would think this would be easy, and it's really not. Here's another photo from that same photo shoot when I really got into peak aesthetic and physical shape for my 40th birthday. This was me during that same photo shoot on my 40th birthday. I was capturing photos for the cover of my Slim Sexy Strong DVD, but I was also really wanting to capture. We're going to figure this out. How do we go get another share? No, that's, oh, I see. Wait, stop. You got to stop and then you got to share again, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to share another photo from that same exact time right here, same exact photo shoot. This was on at my 40th birthday. So at the time I was weighing about 115 pounds, which is very lean. My body fat here was 15.5% body fat. And I know that through very accurate bod pod testing. I was 40 years old. I weighed 115 pounds. And at this point, I might have been 116, 117. And my body fat was 15.5% body fat at the height of about 5'6". At the time, I was probably 5'6.5". Now I'm down to like 5'6", maybe even less than 5'6", as some of my silly doctors like to tell me. Don't necessarily believe them. But let me tell you a little bit about what was going on in my habits to get me to that peak shape of my 40th birthday, because a lot of things changed after 40. So if you just popped in, I'm sharing a retrospective, the ages and stages of my fitness journey. We started in high school in the times of 0 fat everything. We moved through the ages of high protein, low carb, and now we are at the stage of balancing your macronutrients. Now, I did go through a very short trial of high fat, low carb, low protein, which is considered the ketogenic diet. And it was a disaster. Didn't work, didn't last. It was awful. And it's one of among many reasons why I'm not a supporter of a ketogenic type diet. In fact, I'm not a supporter of a ultra low carbohydrate diet at all. I am a supporter of moderate carbohydrates to high carbohydrates, depending on the person. So what got me to that peak shape at 50 was a lot of low intensity cardio, a lot of heavy lifting, low calories, and balanced macronutrients. Now, at the time, my carbohydrates were lower than what I teach now. And it was during those times that I figured out the problem with low carbohydrate eating when you're strength training and when you're an active human. Now, I believe every human should be active and should be strength training. I believe every woman should be strength training. So therefore, by default, I very much believe that if you're strength training and you're active, your carbohydrates should never go below 40% of your daily intake of calories. Now, I was at about a 35, 35, 30 macronutrient distribution at the time of my 40th birthday when I was ultra lean. And I believe that it was the low calories and the extra cardio on top of the strength training is what got me super lean. Strength training was the foundation, but I had to have low calorie, lots of cardio, and kind of low carbs to get there. The result was I looked amazing. And at times I performed really well, but I was still struggling with energy. And then At about the age of 44 or 45, I moved into an apartment, unbeknownst to me, that had toxic mold. And over a period of 6 years, the toxic mold started to break down my immune system. After about 6 years, it had beaten me down to the point where I had some very, very severe health issues. This was now 3 to 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, when it was starting to brew. And at that point, after being so, I don't know if I have a photo of this time. Let me look and see if I have a photo during this time. After 44, I do actually. There it is. This is interesting. So after that photo at my 40th birthday, where I was peak, I then went on the downturn because I was having a lot of health issues that were coming to the forefront. What was on its way to the forefront here was an active Lyme disease diagnosis, Hashimoto's diagnosis, a severe autoimmune disorder diagnosis, and all of that was brought on by living in a toxic mold apartment. And so I started the decline maybe around 44. And also at the time, I started getting severe allergies again. Now, warning, this is a very vulnerable photo I'm going to show you guys because this is full on backside. I don't even know if I'm allowed to show this on Facebook. I might get taken down. So look at it real quick because I don't know if I'm allowed to share my little bare booty on Facebook. But you can get an idea of where my body was and where my body fat was here. And while it was fine, I'm not embarrassed by this. This is reflective of what was going on in my health at the time. So I went from ultra lean peak fitness to this at about the age of 44-ish. Maybe it was 45, 46. I'm not sure exactly, but you can see that my body just really wasn't as impressive, if you will. And I was really starting to have a lot of health problems again. My allergies were awful. This was the time when I started doing Live with Holly. And some of you might remember some of the Live with Holly episodes where my eyes were just a mess. I was sneezing all of the time. My allergies were so bad. I felt awful again. And that is when I got the diagnosis, which brought me here to Pennsylvania, which kicked me out of California, which really caused a hard left turn in my life. I had to move out of that apartment that I was living in Los Angeles because I was literally just barely able to get through the days. I was barely holding on. I felt so awful at the time. And that really caused a change in my life where I had to prioritize my health above everything. And I couldn't care about my body composition. So there was a stretch now of maybe 3 to 4 years, maybe more, where I was completely dedicated to just getting myself to feel better, just to feel better. I'm trying to see if I have any photos. This photo is actually pretty close. So during that time, on the left was when, just after that last photo that I shared with you, the photo on the left, I had just lost about 8 to 10 pounds by eliminating grains and eliminating dairy. So when all of my health issues were emerging, I started to learn about some diet strategies to address autoimmune problems. And I completely eliminated all dairy, all sugar, all grains, all grains. I was eating 50, 25, 25 in my macronutrient distribution. And I somewhat effortlessly released about 8 to 10 pounds to the photo on the left. And then I really shifted how I was strength training. And with those diet changes, I achieved the photo on the right. Now, if you look close, I weigh the same exact amount. This was the day that I threw my bathroom scale away. If you've ever heard me tell that story where I woke up one morning and I was feeling awesome and I was feeling lean and I felt skinny and I was positive that I weighed about 118 pounds. And I went in to weigh myself and the scale said I weighed 124 pounds. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And I marched that bathroom scale down to the dumpsters. I threw it away. And I technically haven't owned a bathroom scale again until about 3 months ago. So for a very long time, I just gave up on the whole weight conversation because as you can see here, I'm clearly leaner. I look better, but I weigh the same exact amount on the scale. And that's because I got my diet dialed in. I released inflammation and body fat. I cut back on my cardio and I really started using strength training as my primary activity. I was walking, I was doing low intensity cardio, some, very little, but strength training and nutrition was really what brought about this change and got me lean and looking better at the same exact body weight. And that is why I now teach strength training to improve your body composition and worrying a little bit less about the scale. Because ultimately, when you're strength training, the scale is no longer accurate. When you're really leaning into your strength training, the scale is a whole lot less accurate. So this takes us up to earlier this year. And earlier this year, just before I turned 50, through almost zero cardio, through 100% nutrition efforts, and moderate strength training here, light to moderate strength training, I was able to finally get back to a pretty amazing place at the age. This was just before I turned 50. So we are now at the beginning of January 2022. If you're watching this in playback, my 50th birthday was December of 2021. This was a few months before my 50th birthday. And so this was just before my 50th birthday, very close to it. Let's call it my 50th birthday. And I was taking progress photos. And I found this and I really was amazed to go back and look at this retrospective of where I've been in all of the ages and stages and where I am now. And what got me to this photo here was basically 50% strength training and 50% nutrition. There's almost no dedicated cardio here. I'm walking my dogs, but it's at a very leisurely pace for 30 minutes once a day. Maybe I would hop on the elliptical for 20 or 30 minutes at a low intensity once or twice a week, but hardly any cardio at all. This is almost all strength training and the principles of nutrition that I teach today. 50% of my daily calories coming from carbohydrates, smart carbohydrates. I eat very little grains. I lean on fruit and vegetables, sweet potatoes, and starchier vegetables like squash, beets, a little bit of beans for my carbohydrates. I eat zero chicken because of what I learned in my 30s. I eat absolutely no dairy. I do allow myself some sugar in the form of maple syrup. I'm not afraid of sugar. I eat lots of fruit. I eat lots of turkey. And I spoil myself with a cappuccino or a latte a couple times a week. Otherwise, I'm drinking tea most of the time. I'm not doing a lot of cardio. I'm doing a lot of strength training. And my strength training now is really focused on lifting as heavy as I possibly can without overexerting my system because I still am working to find vibrant energy. And I do feel that I'm very, very, very close to it. But it's something that I will forever have to keep tabs on because of my autoimmune disorder diagnosis. Okay, I'm looking to see if I have any. Here we go. That's what I wanted to share. And here we are on my 50th birthday in Florida at the beach with my two best friends. I had had a double espresso that morning for as part of my breakfast. I was eating the way that I always eat. I didn't work. Actually, I did. I worked out later that day. And while I'm not at my leanest, and while I'm not at my most fit, this is pretty darn good for the age of 50. And I know that there is a big journey ahead of me. I'm actually very excited about this decade between 50 and 60. I can't even believe I'm in that decade. How is this possible? But I'm very excited about where to go because this whole journey has really brought me to where I am right now and given me the education and the tools to achieve whatever I want with my body whenever I want. And ultimately, at the end of the day, where that has brought me to is creating my particular methods of helping you create the body that you need to keep up with the life that you love. Because I wanted to be on that beach in Florida with my best friends, and I wanted to feel good that day on my 50th birthday. And so, therefore, these days, my training principles and everything I teach inside of my community, inside of my paid programs and more elevated coaching programs, is that strength training is the foundation to everything that you do. If you focus on progressive resistance with excellent technique and you build your lean muscle mass, and then you find the right macronutrient balance and the right food choices for your body, you can really transform your body at any age. And notice I didn't even mention cardio. While I believe cardio is important for cardiovascular health and for feeling good, ultimately, I don't believe that when you have your strength training and your nutrition dialed in, I don't believe cardio is necessary for reducing body fat. I do believe it's important for recovery, for feeling well, health and wellness, cardiovascular health, cardiovascular fitness. But I don't believe the cardio is absolutely necessary to get you lean when your strength training is right and when your nutrition is right. And that is why I help women use strength training and intentional nutrition to help you create the body that you need to keep up with the life that you love. Because when you transform your body, you transform your life. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you will share some comments with me. Who is still here with me live? If you are watching this in playback, I'm going to share just some of the comments that have been shared on this live stream. Karen, I'm so glad you're here. She says, I love what you're sharing today. Amy, love this. It is so inspiring and interesting. Christy, love this too. Hollis, yowza, proof positive that strategy and discipline really work. It's really true. And Hollis, in my humble opinion, you looked fabulous in both photos, just somewhat different. That said, I'm going to follow your advice. I love it. Yeah. And by the way, in no way am I saying I looked awful. I'm not putting myself down. I'm not in any way criticizing myself. I'm really just showing you what was going on and what my habits were and what it produced in my health, how I felt, and what my body looked like. Such a beautiful example of physical and mental fitness. Facebook user. So I know Facebook user might be Janet. I know it might also be, who's the other person that it ends up being? There's two of you, maybe Elizabeth. There's two of you that it often shows up this way as Facebook user. But thank you so much. And Lois, my dear friend, very interesting journey. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for listening. I'm glad that you guys were here for it. And my intention really is to just kind of help you see the things that were helpful for me that might be helpful for you. I'm not saying this is the only way to get to where you're going, but I do know the things I teach work. And I do know that my track record over the past couple of years coaching women has been impressive. Some of those women are here today, and I think they probably would agree with that. I'm not saying that my programs and systems work for everyone, because there definitely have been some people where it didn't work as well as it has for the vast majority. But I do know if you follow what I teach inside of my programs, or if you coach with me one-on-one or whatever, or even just read my book or follow my blog, free programming, if you do what I tell you to do and what I teach, my programs work. They absolutely work to the degree that you work them. And there are different pieces of all of the different story here that I hope that you're able to take away and apply to your own life. I'm so glad that you were here. Thank you for joining me for this awesome conversation. And as I said, if you were watching this in playback on my blog, I'm so glad that you're here. Please make sure that you share your email address with me below so that you can get regular, frequent updates. And if you're watching this on YouTube, come on over to my website, hollyperkins.com/let's go offer. And that's going to give you access to a totally free, beautiful 14-page program, which is a 6-week strength and cardio program to help you really see what an effective strength training and cardio program looks like. There are video tutorials, there's programming for home and gym. It gives you everything that you need. Hold on, let's get rid of this. Lois, thank you for your comment. I don't know how to get it off. There we go. And that will give you everything you need to get started on your own journey. If you have any questions or you just want to hit me up directly, come on over to my email at holly@hollyperkins.com. If you have questions or want to share your thoughts, I always love getting emails from people. Until next time, I hope to see you for another episode of Hot Tea with Holly every Tuesday, 1 o'clock on the East Coast, live only on Facebook, Holly Perkins Fitness on Facebook. I'll see you then, my friend.